My world shattered into a million pieces the evening my husband of 25 years, Richard, came home with a suitcase. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Just tossed a set of keys and a credit card on the marble countertop we'd picked out together on a happy anniversary trip years ago. "This is for you, Helen. It should be enough for a while," he said, his voice cold and distant. "I'm leaving you for Crystal. She's young. She's alive. You've just become a shadow in this house." A shadow. The word echoed in the cathedral-like silence of our home. Just that morning, I had ironed his shirts just the way he liked, picked up his favorite coffee, and planned a quiet dinner. For 25 years, my life had been a tapestry woven around his needs, his career, his comfort. I was the woman who had quietly packed away her own dream of being a pastry chef, a dream filled with the scent of vanilla and the warmth of a bustling kitchen to support him while he built his monolithic construction empire from the ground up. I was the fortress he came home to. Now, the fortress had become my gilded cage, and I had just been thrown out. The first few weeks were a masterclass in agony. The silence in the house was a physical weight pressing down on me. Every object screamed a memory. The armchair where he read the paper, the mug I'd bought him that said, "World's Best Husband," a cruel joke now sitting in the dishwasher. I'd wake up at 6 a.m., out of habit, ready to make his coffee, only to be hit by the cold, stark reality of the empty space beside me in bed. My daughter, Jessica, called every day, her voice laced with a mixture of pity and rage for her father. "Just get out of that house, Mom," she'd plead. "It's a mausoleum." But I couldn't. Leaving felt like admitting it was real. The true torture, however, came from my phone. Richard, a man who rarely used social media, was now shamelessly documenting his new life. Photos of him and Crystal in Paris, their faces glowing under the lights of the Eiffel Tower. Videos of them laughing on a yacht, her 2-3-year-old body draped over him. It was a public execution of our life together, and with every post, I could feel the whispers of our social circle, the pitying looks I knew I'd receive if I ever dared to show my face in town again. One rainy afternoon, driven by a desperate need to reclaim some part of my own story, I went up to the attic. It was a graveyard of forgotten hobbies and past lives. Tucked away in a dark corner, I found it. A dusty wooden crate, filled with the ghosts of the woman I used to be. My old notebooks, their pages filled with intricate recipes for cakes and pastries. My baking pans, my pastry bags, my favorite vanilla extract from a trip to Mexico. The scent that rose from the box was one of ambition, of a younger, brighter Helen. It was the scent of my dream. For the first time in weeks, I didn't cry. Instead, a slow burning anger began to smolder in my chest. No more tears. No more being a shadow. That evening, I went to the kitchen and tried to bake my signature honey cake, the one Richard used to beg for. It was a disaster. I was clumsy, out of practice. The cake came out dense and burnt. I threw it in the trash, a wave of despair washing over me. But as I stared at the mess, the anger returned. I would not be defeated by a cake. I tried again the next day, and the day after. On the third try, it was perfect. I gave a slice to my neighbour, Carol. An hour later, she was at my door, eyes wide. "Helen," she said, "that's the best cake I've ever eaten. My book club is next week. Can I pay you to make one?" It was a spark, a tiny, fragile spark in the darkness. I said yes. The book club loved it. One of them asked for a birthday cake for her son. Word of mouth began to spread. Hesitantly, with Jessica's help, I started an Instagram page, Sweet Memories by Helen. I took photos of my creations on our beautiful dining room table, the one Richard had abandoned. The irony was delicious. The orders started as a trickle, then became a steady stream. I was baking day and night, the house finally filled with a new, happier scent. I knew I couldn't run a real business from my home forever. I needed a real space, a real beginning. So I made a decision. I sold Richard's expensive car, the one he'd generously left me. The money in my bank account felt like my own declaration of independence. It was enough. Enough to rent a small, charming and utterly neglected space on a quiet street downtown. Sweet Memories was about to have a home. The year that followed was a whirlwind of flour, sugar, and impossibly long hours. But for the first time in my life, I felt truly alive. The answer to my question, would anyone come, was a resounding yes. My little shop, Sweet Memories, became a local sensation. I had hired 2 young, energetic assistants, and we had a line out the door every weekend. My wedding cakes, each one a custom creation, were booked a year in advance. I was no longer Richard's shadow. I was Helen, the woman who had built the most beloved bakery in town. I was happy.